you have any intention of GMing a game where you're not running a published adventure as scripted, this is something that you're gonna wanna start doing now. Curating ideas, looking at work and getting inspired. Every artist is inspired by some other type of work, and creating a world or quests or campaign stuff is not really any different. Sometimes we even catch these references or homages in other stuff that we read and watch. The key here is not just to do this, but to get into the habit of doing it regularly so that when you see something, you're looking at that media through this lens of how would this work in D&D, and thinking, oh, that would be cool as a session, that would be cool as an encounter, that would be cool as a boss, as a magic item, and recording those things and collecting them. There's tons of ways you can do this. Mood board app, Pinterest, tons of note-taking apps. The main thing is that you are trying to collect these ideas into a singular place as much as possible. If you do use some kind of note-taking app for your campaign, putting it there is a great idea, regardless of what software that is. I primarily do this with a piece of software called Notion. It's multi-platform, so if I think of an idea, I can just jot it down on my phone and it's there for later. And the way that I have it set up, I have a database page called Arcs and Encounters. And I start with an ideas column, and that's where all of these ideas go. And it's just a sentence or less sometimes, just the nugget of an idea, even if it seems dumb. The only thing that matters is that I'm inspired by it, but you just want to write it down and record it. Deciding what's a good idea is for later. So the reason I like to use Notion too is that I have templates. So when I want to take an idea and flesh it out, or if I want to add a map to it or anything more than just a couple words, I can use a template and it's all set up the way that I would run it as a full encounter or session. I have my first column, that's the ideas, and then I slide it over to developing once I start sort of fleshing these pieces out, and it looks like I probably will run this at some point soon, like the previous arcs are leading to this, or it makes sense as a next thing. Then I move it over when we're running it, and that's where I reference it when we're running it. And when I finish it, it just goes into a completed column, which usually I hide just so there's less columns to look at. But the real key to all of this and what makes this special, like you have ideas all the time. I'm sure you've taken an idea and you've rolled it into your campaign. But by collecting them, when we're starting to finish up this arc or whatever we're on, and it's like, what do we do next? That's when I go through this list and I say, you know what? I'm gonna move stuff to the top that sounds like a good idea. I'm gonna move it down if it doesn't sound like a good idea right now. I can choose the one that I think is either the very best one or the most suited for the moment in the campaign, or I can see it making sense next. By collecting a bunch of ideas that were kinda good, some of them that we'll never do or turn out to be stupid or whatever, anything that inspired us that would be cool, when we actually have to develop the stuff, now we have a huge list and we can narrow that down to that top 0.1% of ideas that we've had. And that translates into good campaign stuff, into good arcs and good adventures and good quests. This gets us in the habit of being patient for these ideas to come too. If the players completely circumvent something that we wanted to run, we don't have to fret, because we know we still have the idea and we can hold on to it. I've had one idea that the players bypassed it and I held on to it for over a year, and probably turned out better because I had more time to think about it and rearrange it, and we had better characters to put into it. If you're running a campaign for a long time, you can hang on to these. They will be there for you later. When you write your idea, write a more simplified version. If you're watching a show where they have to make a heist on a train to recover some kind of object, maybe you just write, heist on moving vehicle or something like that. It doesn't have to be a train when you get there. It could be something else. Maybe it's a wagon. Maybe it's a ship that they have to jump onto and jump off of at sea. An example that I had, I'm running an Edge of the Empire campaign, so I wrote down a lot of ideas when I watched through Cowboy Bebop. One of them, there's an episode where there's something inhabiting their ship, and in my version, they had already had bounty hunters as stowaways on the ship ambush them while they're flying. This time, I had it be something a little bit more innocuous that seemed dangerous and turned out to be a cute little owl. So if you start doing this now, whether you're already homebrewing a campaign completely or you're thinking about doing that in the future, you're going to be doing yourself a favor, because you will have a big list of ideas to work from, ones that you're excited about. It will make for good sessions. It's worked really well for me, and I'm hoping it will for you too. So keep rolling and have fun.